Hello and welcome back to today's American Flyer Trains, where we kick off a video series with an introduction to the rebuild of a 1959 and 1960 twin, what was called Mopac for short, or Missouri Pacific PA units that were numbered 21922 and 21922-1. These are customer-owned trains. Stay tuned. In 1959 and 60, A.C. Gilbert produced twin Mopac or Missouri Pacific PA units that had 5-digit numbers, one of which for the dummy A unit was a little bit unusual in that it was numbered -1. So the primary powered A unit with double motors was 21922 and the dummy unit was 21922-1. rather than a number in sequence like 21923. Now the power unit had two power trucks. You see one here, one of the trucks is here, and you barely see the other one over there. They had the double worm drive motors and pull more traction tires and an operating headlight. We're going to talk a little bit more about the traction tires later, probably when I get it disassembled. This dummy unit right here had an operating headlight, but the unusual thing is that it had an automatic ringing bell. So the dummy unit is going to run in reverse probably most of the time, and at a slow enough speed it'll activate a bell. Theoretically, what was supposed to happen is that as it gained speed, the bell would quieten. And then when it slowed down, it activates the bell. So we're going to break this thing down, break the dummy unit down, see what we can do to maybe improve the performance of that bell a little bit. But it sounds like it has no electrical parts, simply it is totally mechanical. And of course, this train had knuckle couplers. This is type 2 in that this one, in type 2 versus type 1, the side steps were molded into the body of the locomotive. Most of you are familiar with the steps that are attached either by a rivet or a pin right here, and actually have the bottom, middle, and upper step, tall step, that hang right here, which look more realistic. But I guess by 1959 and 1960, A.C. Gilbert was cutting costs in a lot of different areas, and that was just one of them. The build date on this train is November of 1959. Now, you don't always find build dates inside of locomotives, but I did on this one. And I'll want to take a photograph for the owner. And there it is, November 11/59, November 1959 was a construction date on this one. So I'm going to be very careful to preserve that. Of course, there's no reason to wash the interior. It's very clean to begin with, so I will not risk removing that number, and I'll make sure that a close-up photograph is made for the owner's records. It's going to be built, rebuilt, not restored, along an August-September timeline. Now, Doyle gives this train set, this AA unit, a scarcity rating of 7 on a scale of 1 to 8. And in excellent condition, its price tag can go up, or value could go up to the $800 range. So this is a nice set to have in a collection, and as you can see, it's in incredible condition. These AA units were in the consumer catalogs both in 1959 and 1960. So one was what was called catalog set 21922, the 2-unit Missouri Pacific diesel locomotive PA units. Price tag in 1959 was $40. The second catalog set that it appeared as, or within, is catalog set 20540, the Merchandiser, from 1959 on into 1960. Correction, it was called Merchandiser in 1959. It was called the Merchandiser in 1960. The Merchandiser freight train set, with a price tag for these sets to be anywhere from about $67 to $69. Now, before we begin the rebuild part of this, just some interesting facts, which you know, if you followed my videos long enough, that I'm as interested in as I am in rebuilding and operating and collecting these trains, and that's cataloging them. Interesting facts. We already mentioned one. The numbers of the AA units are not sequential, they are rather hyphenated. 21922 for the power unit, 21922-1 for the dummy A unit. Already mentioned and showed you that the build date stamp has been preserved and that the steps were molded into the body, giving this one its designation as a Type 2 of this particular train. It's really cool that I should have this on my bench top from a customer, because this is the cover train for Greenberg's 2021 price guide. So go look it up in Amazon or other resources for Greenberg's American Flyer price guide, and you will see this locomotive on the cover in approximately that location, of course with the chassis and everything attached. It has, rather than a 4-position reverse unit, a 2-position reverse unit right there. Good bit different than what we're used to looking at with a 4-position with a cylinder. A lot more simple, a much more simple mechanism. And as we already mentioned, it had, the dummy unit had the automatic ringing bell, which is totally mechanical, not electrical. To close out this introductory video, something about the Pullmore tires configuration, type, and location on this train. So let's first take a look at the front truck. As you can see, it has Pullmores on the same side, both axles. And these Pullmores are not what I'm used to. I'm used to seeing either the vulcanized type of Pullmore on AC Gilbert diesels, or ones that I've installed which are banded but grooved. And that is, there is a groove that this band fits down in on this wheel, which is sold by Portland Hobbies. And matter of fact, I've had a very good success in both installing and in the performance of my locomotives with these wheels. Greatly improved performance. But these have just a standard band that we're used to putting on some of these, say, Pacific locomotives, like a 282. And that's what I'm going to recommend to the owner that we put on this one. But again, the front motor, same side, Pullmore bands. Now let's go to the back motor, the rear motor. Notice it switches sides, puts a Pullmore tire on both axles on the same side on that one as well. Now the location of the slide contact will be on the side of the pickup wheels. So essentially, to me, it looks like that one motor is going to be picking up the positive, and the other motor is going to provide the base contact through its wheels. Now here's what I've noticed on my other diesels, and I have some earlier PA units, and that is, if it has 2 motors, such as this one, then there's only one Pullmore on each motor, say at this location here. Then there is only one Pullmore on the opposite side, say on this axle right here. Not 2 on the same side on each axle, and not 2 on the same axle. Now what I've noticed in a single motor PA rather than a double is that there'll be a Pullmore here and on the opposite corner here. On my GP7, on the only motor that it has, it's not a dual motor, here it has Pullmores on both wheels of the front axle, none on the back axle, and it is a very good performer. But this is the first time I've ever seen the Pullmores on the same side. And again, I believe these are the tire type, which you see here. Easily installed, stretched, and then glued in place. I'm going to recommend probably to the owner, and I'll know more once I get this disassembled, that we go ahead and replace these. You can see this one where my thumb is located already has a fracture in it. As a matter of fact, if we can get the light to reflect in there just right, you can see the light being reflected out of that little fracture in the tire. This would be the time to change it rather than having it fly off after it's already been rebuilt and then reassembled. So I'm going to recommend that to the owner, but give way to his wishes as to what he would like to do. I'll know more about these tires once I get these motors off and the chassis completely stripped down and separated, thoroughly washed, so that then I can inspect the tires for any fractures, cracking, or chipping. As a matter of fact, there's a chip on that one right there. You can see it pointing directly toward the camera. And they look a little slick and they are a little hard. So we'll see how that works out. But this is the most unusual tire arrangement I've seen on the Alcos. Maybe that was done, again, in a cost-cutting measure from A.C. Gilbert to get away from these specialized vulcanized tires, wheels, I'm sorry. That way he could use wheels without pull mores, or he could simply put these little simple bands on them and get away from having to manufacture yet another kind of wheel. All right, stay tuned for the rebuild of this PA locomotive set. Thanks again for watching Dave's American Flyer Trains. So long, everyone.